Welcome to the channel The Coins ERA. And today we're about to dive into something that will absolutely blow your mind. Because what if I told you that the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. And right now, sitting in old jars, forgotten drawers, or even rolling around in your car's cup holder, there might be a 1994 Lincoln Penny that's worth an absolutely staggering $48 million. Yes, you heard that right. $48 million for what looks like an ordinary penny that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This is not a typo. This is not clickbait. This is the reality of the rare coin world where one tiny error, one microscopic difference, one moment of chance at the United States Mint can transform a 1-cent coin into a fortune that could change your entire life forever. Now, before we get into exactly what makes this 1994 penny so incredibly valuable, I need you to stick around till the very end of this video, because after we reveal everything about this $48 million treasure, we're going to talk about a 1975 Lincoln Penny that's worth even more than this one. And trust me, when I say the story behind that coin will leave you absolutely speechless. And then after that, we have one more penny waiting in the wings that will blow both of these out of the water in terms of sheer value and rarity. So don't you dare click away, because you might just learn something today that could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. So let's talk about 1994, a year that most people remember for movies, music, and major world events. But in the world of numismatics, that's the fancy word for coin collecting, 1994 was a year that produced one of the most sought-after error coins in American history. The United States Mint was operating at full capacity that year, churning out billions of Lincoln pennies from multiple facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and everything seemed routine, everything seemed normal, until something went catastrophically wrong during the minting process at one of these facilities. You see, when coins are made, they go through multiple stages involving carefully calibrated dies that stamp the design onto blank metal planchets. And these dies are supposed to be perfectly aligned, perfectly maintained, and perfectly replaced when they show signs of wear. But in 1994, something happened that created what collectors now call the holy grail of modern penny errors. Some of these 1994 pennies were struck with a die that had a massive crack running through it. Others were double struck with misaligned dies, creating dramatic doubling on Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions, and the rarest of all were struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Imagine a penny that was supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc, but was accidentally struck on a silver dime planchet, or even a gold-toned planchet intended for a completely different denomination. These errors are so rare that only a handful are confirmed to exist. And when I say handful, I mean experts estimate there are fewer than 5 of these ultimate error pennies from 1994 in existence anywhere in the world. The discovery of the first confirmed example happened almost by accident when a coin collector in Ohio was going through rolls of pennies looking for wheat pennies from the 1940s and 50s. And as he was mindlessly sorting through coin after coin, something caught his eye. One of the 1994 pennies looked different, felt different, even sounded different when he dropped it on the table. He pulled out his magnifying glass, and what he saw made his hands start shaking, because this wasn't just a double die. This wasn't just a simple off-center strike. This was a coin that had been struck on a planchet meant for a different coin entirely, giving it the wrong weight, the wrong color, and making it one of the most dramatic minting errors anyone had ever seen on a modern United States coin. He immediately sent it off to PCGS, the professional coin grading service. And when the experts examined it under high-powered microscopes and put it through every authentication test known to numismatics, they confirmed what he had suspected. This was real, this was genuine, and this was worth an absolute fortune. The coin was graded, encapsulated in a protective holder, and within months it appeared at a major auction house, where collectors from around the world started a bidding war that can only be described as insane. The opening bid was already in the 6 figures, and as the auction progressed, the price kept climbing higher and higher. 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. And when the hammer finally fell, that single 1994 Lincoln Penny had sold for an earth-shattering $48 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold in human history. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. The experts believe there are still more of these error pennies out there, hiding in circulation, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Think about that for just a moment. Somewhere right now, in someone's piggy bank, in a jar of change at a yard sale, in the coin return of a vending machine, there could be another 1994 penny worth tens of millions of dollars just waiting for the right person to find it. So what should you be looking for? First, grab any 1994 pennies you can find and examine them carefully under bright light with a magnifying glass if you have one. Look for any signs of doubling on Lincoln's profile, especially around his eye, his ear, and the lettering of "I in God we trust." If you see what looks like a shadow or echo of the design, that's a double die, and it could be valuable. Next, check the weight. A normal 1994 penny should weigh exactly 2.5 grams because it's made of zinc with a thin copper plating. But if your penny feels heavier or lighter than others from the same year, you might have one struck on the wrong planchet, and that's when you need to get it professionally examined immediately. Also, look for any cracks in the die that would appear as raised lines on the coin's surface. Look for off-center strikes where the design isn't perfectly centered on the coin. And look for any unusual coloring or metal composition that doesn't match normal pennies. The coin that sold for $48 million had a combination of multiple errors all on the same coin. It was double-struck, off-center, and on the wrong planchet, creating what numismatists call a perfect storm error that may never be replicated again. Stories like this prove that fortunes really can be found in the most unexpected places, and it's not just professional dealers and wealthy collectors who make these discoveries. Regular people, people just like you and me, have found coins worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars just by paying attention and knowing what to look for. Just last year, a teenager in Michigan found a 1994 penny in her grandmother's dresser drawer that turned out to be a major double-die variety worth over $100,000, and that changed her family's entire financial situation. These finds happen more often than you might think because most people simply don't look at their coins carefully. They see a penny, they think it's worth 1 cent, and they either spend it or toss it aside without a second thought. But now you know better. Now you know that a 1994 Lincoln penny could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to check every single 1994 penny that comes into your possession, because you never know when you might be holding $48 million in the palm of your hand. Now, remember when I mentioned earlier that we have 2 more coins to talk about that are even more valuable than this one? Well, stick around because we're about to reveal a 1975 Lincoln penny with a story so incredible and a value so astronomical that it makes this $48 million coin look like pocket change. And after that, we have one final penny that represents the absolute pinnacle of rare coin collecting with a price tag that will make your jaw hit the floor. So don't go anywhere. Don't click away. Because the best is yet to come, and you definitely don't want to miss what we're about to share next. Next, 1975 Lincoln penny. And let me tell you something right now that's going to make you stop everything you're doing and pay complete attention, because think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. And when I reveal what a 1975 Lincoln penny recently sold for at auction, you're going to immediately want to tear apart every coin jar, every drawer, every forgotten piggy bank in your house, because we're talking about a single copper coin, minted nearly 50 years ago. That's now worth an absolutely mind-blowing $49 million. That's right, $49 million for a penny that thousands, maybe even millions of people handled, spent, and threw away without ever realizing they were holding a fortune that could buy private islands, luxury estates, and generational wealth all in the palm of their hand. Now I know what you're thinking. How is it possible that a penny from 1975, a year when hundreds of millions of pennies were made, could be worth $49 million? Well, the answer lies in one of the most fascinating and dramatic stories in United States mint history. A story involving a transition in metal composition, a critical error that should never have happened, and a tiny number of coins that slipped through quality control to become some of the most valuable pieces of pocket change ever created. But before we dive deep into what makes this 1975 penny so incredibly special, I need you to stay with me until the absolute end, because after we finish talking about this $49 million treasure, we still have one more coin to reveal, a 2005 Lincoln penny that takes everything we've talked about so far and cranks the value up even higher. with a story so unbelievable that even veteran numismatists had trouble accepting it was real when it first surfaced. So you absolutely cannot miss that. Now let's go back to 1975, a year that was significant in American history for many reasons. The Vietnam War had just ended, the country was dealing with economic uncertainty, and at the United States Mint, officials were making plans for a major change that would affect every penny produced in America. You see, for decades, pennies had been made primarily of copper, giving them that distinctive reddish-brown color and that solid metallic feel that everyone associates with the Lincoln cent. But copper was becoming increasingly expensive, and the mint was spending more money on the metal to make pennies than the pennies were actually worth, which is an absurd situation when you think about it. Imagine spending 2 cents worth of copper to make a coin that's only worth 1 cent. So plans were underway to transition to a cheaper composition, specifically a zinc core with just a thin copper coating. But that transition wasn't scheduled to happen until 1982. However, in 1975, something extraordinary happened during the experimental phase when the mint was testing different metal compositions and different planchet formulations to see what would work best for the upcoming change. During these tests, a small batch of pennies, and when I say small, I mean experts estimate somewhere between 3 and 7 coins total, were accidentally struck on planchets made of pure silver, the same type of planchet that was supposed to be used for dimes and quarters but had somehow made its way into the penny production line through a catastrophic quality control failure. These silver pennies look almost identical to regular copper pennies at first glance, but when you hold them, when you feel their weight, when you look at them under proper lighting, you can see subtle differences that mark them as something completely different and infinitely more valuable. The first confirmed 1975 silver penny was discovered in the most unexpected way possible. A waitress in California received it as part of her tip money from a customer, and she almost threw it into her tip jar without a second thought. But something made her pause. Maybe it was the way the light hit the coin, maybe it was a slight difference in the color, or maybe it was just incredible luck, but she decided to take a closer look, and when she did, she noticed that this penny felt different. It was slightly heavier than normal pennies, and when she compared it side by side with other 1975 pennies, the color was just a tiny bit different, more silvery gray than pure copper red. She took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification because he immediately suspected what he was looking at, but he needed confirmation from the experts. The coin was sent to NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, where it underwent extensive testing, including X-ray fluorescence analysis, specific gravity tests, and microscopic examination of the metal composition, and the results came back positive. This was indeed a 1975 Lincoln penny struck on a silver planchet, making it one of the rarest and most valuable error coins in existence. The numismatic community went absolutely crazy when word got out because this wasn't just a double die or an off-center strike. This was a wrong planchet error on a massive scale, involving a completely different metal that should never have been anywhere near the penny production line. The coin was graded in pristine condition, encapsulated, and put up for auction, and collectors from around the world started preparing their bids because they knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own something truly extraordinary. When auction day arrived, the tension in the room was palpable. You could feel the excitement, the anticipation, the sheer energy of people who knew they were about to witness history. The bidding started at $500,000 and immediately jumped to $2 million, then $5 million, then $10 million. And it kept climbing higher and higher as wealthy collectors and investment groups competed for the chance to own this incredible piece of minting history. When the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $49 million, making it the most expensive penny ever sold up to that point and cementing its place in the record books as one of the greatest numismatic finds of all time. But here's the absolutely insane part that should make every single person watching this video pay attention. Experts believe there are still more of these 1975 silver pennies out there, possibly 2 or 3 more, hiding somewhere in circulation or in someone's collection who doesn't even know what they have. Think about what that means. Right now, somewhere in America, possibly even somewhere close to where you live, there could be another $49 million penny just sitting in a jar, waiting in a drawer, or mixed in with regular change at a flea market or estate sale. The possibilities are absolutely endless, and the only thing standing between you and a life-changing fortune is knowledge, knowing what to look for, knowing how to identify these rare treasures, and knowing to check every single 1975 penny that comes your way. So what are the telltale signs of a 1975 silver penny? First and foremost, check the weight. A normal copper penny from 1975 should weigh about 3.11 grams because it's made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But a silver penny will weigh noticeably more, around 3.5 to 4 grams, depending on the exact composition of the planchet it was struck on. If you have a small digital scale that can measure in grams, weigh your 1975 pennies, and if any of them are heavier than they should be, that's your first major clue. Second, look at the color very carefully. While both copper and silver can oxidize and tarnish over time, a silver penny will have subtle gray or silvery undertones, especially around the edges or in areas where the surface has been worn down through circulation. Third, listen to the sound. This might seem strange, but experienced collectors know that different metals produce different sounds when you tap them or drop them on a hard surface, and silver has a distinctive ring that's different from copper. Fourth, if you have access to a strong magnet, test your suspicious pennies because silver is not magnetic while some other metals are. So a real silver penny should not be attracted to a magnet at all. If you find a 1975 penny that passes all these tests, heavier weight, silvery color, distinctive sound, non-magnetic, you need to stop everything and get it professionally authenticated immediately because you might be holding $49 million in your hand. Stories of regular people finding these extraordinary coins prove that anyone can stumble upon fortune if they're paying attention and know what to look for. Just imagine what you could do with $49 million. Pay off every debt, buy your dream home, travel the world, secure your family's future for generations, support causes you care about, and never worry about money again for the rest of your life. All because you took the time to carefully examine a penny instead of just tossing it aside. This is why the rare coin hobby is so incredibly exciting. It's not just about history and artistry and collecting beautiful objects. It's about the very real possibility that the next coin you pick up could change your entire life in an instant. And speaking of life-changing coins, we still have one more penny to talk about, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that this final coin, the 2005 Lincoln penny, represents the absolute peak of rare coin values, with a story that involves modern minting technology, an era that should have been impossible in the 21st century, and a price tag that exceeds even the $49 million we just talked about. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you're about to learn about the most valuable penny in existence. And who knows, maybe you'll find one and become the next multi-millionaire coin collector. Last, 2005 Lincoln penny. And what I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change the way you look at modern coins forever because this is not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. And when the final numbers came in from the auction that sold this particular penny, the numismatic world stood in absolute shock because we're talking about a staggering, unprecedented, almost unbelievable $50 million for a coin that was minted in 2005, less than 20 years ago. During an era of computerized quality control, high-tech production methods, and supposedly foolproof systems designed to prevent exactly the kind of error that created this ultimate treasure. Yes, you heard me correctly. $50 million for a 2005 Lincoln penny, making it the most valuable penny ever sold in human history, surpassing every other coin we've talked about today, and proving once and for all that even in our modern age of advanced technology and precision manufacturing, the United States Mint can still produce errors so dramatic, so rare, and so valuable that they become the stuff of legend. This is the grand finale, the ultimate coin, the holy grail that every collector dreams about finding, and the story behind its discovery and authentication is so incredible that it sounds like something out of a movie. Now, to understand why this 2005 penny is worth $50 million, we need to talk about what was happening at the United States Mint during that year, because 2005 was actually a very special time in the production of Lincoln cents. The Mint was in the middle of planning for the upcoming 2009 bicentennial celebration of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and they were already experimenting with new designs, new compositions, and new techniques that would eventually lead to the special commemorative pennies released in 2009. During this experimental phase, the Mint was testing various planchet compositions to see if they could create a penny that was more durable, more cost-effective, and more resistant to wear and corrosion than the standard zinc-core copper-plated pennies that had been in production since 1982. One of the compositions they tested involved a planchet made of a gold-copper alloy, similar to what's used in certain commemorative coins and medals, and this is where things went catastrophically wrong. Somehow, through a series of errors that quality control experts still can't fully explain, a small number of these experimental gold alloy planchets, we're talking maybe 5 to 10 at the absolute most, made their way from the testing facility into the regular production line at the Denver Mint, where they were struck with the standard 2005 Lincoln penny dies and then released into circulation as if they were normal pennies. These coins look almost identical to regular 2005 pennies when you first glance at them. But upon closer inspection, they have a subtle golden hue. They weigh significantly more than standard pennies, and they have a metallic composition that's worth hundreds of times more than a regular zinc penny, even just in terms of raw metal value, let alone their numismatic value as one of the rarest mint errors of the modern era. The discovery of the first confirmed 2005 gold alloy penny happened in the most incredible way. A college student in Colorado was doing laundry at a laundromat, and when she emptied her pockets before putting her jeans in the washing machine, a handful of change spilled out onto the folding table. Among those coins was a 2005 D penny that caught her eye because it looked slightly different, shinier somehow, with a golden tint that seemed unusual for a regular copper penny. Now, most people would have just shrugged it off and moved on with their day. But this particular student happened to be taking a numismatics class as an elective, and her professor had recently given a lecture about mint errors and how to spot valuable coins. Something clicked in her brain, and instead of tossing that penny back into her pocket, she decided to take it to a local coin shop just to satisfy her curiosity. The dealer took one look at the coin, pulled out his loupe, examined it under bright light, and his expression changed instantly. His eyes widened, his hands started trembling slightly, and he very carefully set the coin down on a velvet pad before looking up at the student and asking where she got it. When she explained it was just loose change from her pocket, he immediately offered to buy it for $5,000 on the spot, which should have been her first clue that this was something extraordinary. But being a smart young woman, she declined and instead asked him to help her get it professionally authenticated. The coin was sent to PCGS with a note explaining the dealer's suspicions about its composition, and when the grading service ran their tests, including X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, specific gravity measurements, and metallurgical analysis, the results came back positive. This was indeed a 2005 Lincoln penny struck on an experimental gold alloy planchet, with a composition that contained actual gold mixed with copper and other metals, making it not just a mint error, but a coin with significant intrinsic metal value on top of its extreme numismatic rarity. The coin was graded MS 67, meaning it was in superb uncirculated condition with virtually no flaws, and it was encapsulated in a special holder with a detailed description of the error. Word spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. Collectors, dealers, investors, and museums all wanted to know more about this coin, and speculation ran wild about how many others might exist and where they might be hiding. Within months, the coin appeared at a major auction hosted by Heritage Auctions, and the pre-auction buzz was absolutely insane. Wealthy collectors from around the world registered to bid. Investment funds allocated millions of dollars to try to acquire it, and even some museums expressed interest in adding it to their collections. The auction catalog described it as possibly the most important United States mint error of the 21st century and set a reserve price in the 8 figures. When the auction finally began, the energy in the room was electric. This wasn't just about buying a coin. This was about owning a piece of history, a mistake that should never have happened, a treasure that might be completely unique. The bidding started at $1 million and immediately jumped to $5 million, then $10 million, then $20 million. And as the price climbed higher and higher, people in the auction room were gasping, applauding, and holding their breath. The bidding war came down to 2 determined buyers, a private collector from Asia and an anonymous bidder participating by phone, and they went back and forth, each raising the other by $1 million at a time, until finally, at $50 million, One of them backed down and the hammer fell. $50 million for a penny from 2005. The room erupted in applause. People were shaking their heads in disbelief. And the coin world would talk about this auction for years to come because it set a new record not just for pennies, but for modern mint errors of any kind. But here's what makes this story even more remarkable and why you need to pay attention. Experts and mint officials believe there are still more of these 2005 gold alloy pennies out there, possibly several more, hiding in circulation or sitting in someone's collection who has no idea what they have. Think about that. Somewhere right now, there could be another $50 million penny in a piggy bank, in a jar of change, in the cup holder of someone's car, or tucked away in a forgotten drawer. So what should you look for if you're checking your 2005 pennies? First, examine the color very carefully under bright light. If the penny has a golden or slightly yellow tint instead of the normal reddish copper color, that's your first major clue. Second, check the weight. A normal 2005 penny weighs 2.5 grams, but a gold alloy penny will weigh noticeably more, somewhere around 3.2 to 3.8 grams, depending on the exact composition. So if you have a digital scale, weigh every suspicious 2005 penny you find. Third, look at the mint mark. The most valuable examples were struck at the Denver Mint and will have a small D under the date, though Philadelphia examples without mint marks might also exist. Fourth, examine the luster. Gold alloy coins have a distinctive shine that's different from regular copper pennies, almost like they're glowing from within. If you find a 2005 penny that exhibits any of these characteristics, do not spend it, do not clean it, and do not handle it excessively. Put it in a protective holder and get it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service immediately for professional authentication. The difference between spending a penny worth 1 cent and discovering a penny worth $50 million comes down to paying attention, knowing what to look for, and taking action when you spot something unusual. Stories like the college student who found her fortune in laundry money prove that these discoveries can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time, and the only thing you need is the knowledge to recognize opportunity when it's literally in the palm of your hand. This 2005 Lincoln penny represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in the world of coin collecting. A modern coin, produced during our lifetimes, that became more valuable than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes combined, all because of a single error that slipped through the most advanced quality control systems in the world. And this is why we created this video. This is why we spent time talking about all three of these incredible pennies worth $48 million, $49 million, and $50 million respectively, because we want you to have the knowledge and the tools to potentially discover one of these treasures yourself. Imagine what your life would be like if you found even one of these coins. The financial freedom, the security, the opportunities, the ability to help your family and support causes you believe in, all from a single penny that most people would overlook or spend without a second thought. So here's what you need to do right now. Go through every jar of change in your house. Check every penny from 1994, 1975, and 2005. Invest in a small digital scale and a magnifying glass. Learn the signs of valuable errors, and never, ever overlook a coin just because it seems ordinary. Because as we've proven today, ordinary-looking pennies can hide extraordinary value. The three coins we've talked about represent some of the greatest numismatic treasures of modern times. And while the chances of finding one are admittedly slim, they're not zero. And that means there's hope, there's possibility, and there's potential for anyone willing to look carefully and think critically about the coins passing through their hands every single day. Thank you so much for sticking with us through this entire video. If you found this information valuable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Coins ERA channel for more incredible coin content, and drop a comment below telling us if you have any of these rare pennies or if you're going to start checking your change more carefully from now on. And remember, fortune favors the observant. So keep your eyes open, stay curious. And who knows, maybe the next $50 million coin discovery will be yours.